Hi, Sandy here on behalf of your local swimming pool company. Today I wanted to give you a quick overview of swimming pool equipment. This is for the new pool owner or for someone who might just need a refresher course. And with this particular system I will also be able to demonstrate how to do a backwash cycle and then point out some of the other components that are probably fairly common to your system. So the first thing that I'll do is explain what each of the pieces are and how the plumbing works as it comes into the whole system. So if you take a look here, we have got a panel on the wall. We have some pipes coming out of the patio going into something, and then we have the filter over here, and then the heater from there, and then more pipes. So let's just go ahead and start from the beginning, and I'll show you the way that water cycles through a swimming pool. So over here in the pipes, on a typical in-ground system, you've got one skimmer in the pool, a main drain, and then you probably have about 3 returns in the pool. Well, the main drain at the bottom of the pool and the skimmer, which is the box in the side of the pool, are where the water is taken out of the pool and put through the filtration system. So typically what you'll have coming into the pump area is 2 pipes. Sometimes they're marked, sometimes they're not. It'll be important to identify which is which so that you know when you're vacuuming the pool and things like that. Sometimes you want to be able to close one of the valves and have a little bit more control there. So you've got 2 pipes coming in. One is the main drain, one is the skimmer, and they're coming into, they tee together and come into what's called the pump. The pump is what actually forces the water through the system. It is the mechanical part that makes this all happen. An important thing to know about pumps is they need to be airtight when they're running. There's water in there. If you have any air leaks or gaps, if you have any leaks coming from your plumbing, or if the water level in the pool gets too low and the skimmer starts to suck air, it's not a good thing because they need to be vacuum tight and only have water to function properly. So the 2 pipes come in to the pump. They travel up through the pipe out of the top of the pump and into what we call a multiport valve. So this is a multiport valve. You'll find a multiport valve commonly on a system that has a sand filter. You'll find them on systems with DE filters. Sometimes, depending on how the system was put together, you could find it on something with a cartridge filter, although it serves a little bit less of a purpose there, and I'll explain why. So on the multiport valve, which is also known as the spinny thing with a handle, you have multiple ports, hence the name multiport. This is what will direct your water when it's coming into the pump and needs to go somewhere. This helps tell you where it's going. You have functions on here for filter, which is normal filter mode. You've got one on here for winterize, which sometimes when we winterize the pool, we put it over here. Some multiports won't have that function specifically. It might say closed, or there might not be one at all. We have a function that says waste, one that says closed, one that says backwash, recirculate, and rinse. So what happens to the water when we're in normal filtration mode is that the water comes in through the top pipe in the top of the filter, runs through the multiport, is pushed into the top of the filter. This is a sand filter. There's approximately 300 pounds of sand inside, along with some pipes and tubing that help push the water and control the flow. So when the multiport is in filter position, the water is pushed into the top of the filter, down through the bed of sand, into the bottom of the filter. There's a PVC pipe in the middle, and then there's fingers at the bottom of the filter. When the water reaches the bottom of the filter, it is drawn back up into those fingers, back up through the center tube in the filter, back into the multiport where it's then directed, in this case, over to the heater. The purpose of running a backwash cycle when you have a sand filter or a DE filter is so that you can clean out the debris that gets trapped in the filter. In the case of a sand filter, when the water is pushed in through the bed of sand, that's what's actually catching your debris on the top of the sand. So you're going to get a lot of leaves and little bits and pieces and things that settle on there. As your filter is running, the pressure is going to build up. There's a pressure gauge on most filters. It's either on the filter itself or it's on the multiport. A typical operating pressure is something that's unique to each system. Normally it's between about 15 and 18 psi is normal operating pressure. As the top of the sand filter gets clogged, the pressure in the pressure gauge is going to read higher, meaning it's taking more power, more force to push the water through the filter. So when the pressure gauge spikes to about 5 to 7 pounds higher than what normal operating pressure is, you would know that it's time to backwash. You can also tell that it's time to backwash by simply watching your pool. When you notice that the returns aren't bubbling as much as they might normally, if you're trying to vacuum and you're not getting very good suction, any number of things can indicate that it's probably time to backwash. Another indicator that it's time to backwash is often that your heater won't fire. A lot of times calls come in and people say, I can't get my heater to start. If they have a sand filter, our first question is always, when is the last time that you backwashed? Because the heater does have a pressure sensor in it, and if the water flow isn't powerful enough, the heater basically will say that I'm not going to turn on for safety reasons. It's a safety feature. So that would indicate that it's time to backwash. So running a backwash cycle, the first thing that you need to remember is you never ever move this handle while the system is running. You don't do that. You don't open the pump basket while the system is running, because that water pressure in there is very, very strong. If you try to move the handle on the multi-port valve while the system is running, you can knock the gasket in there out of place, as well as it's just going to cause problems. So general rule, never ever touch anything with movable parts at your equipment pad unless you've turned the system off first. So if we're going to run a backwash cycle, the purpose of that is to clean off that debris from the top of the filter. So we would come over here, if the system was running, we would turn it off, we would switch our handle to backwash, and then we would turn the system back on. When we switch it to backwash, what is actually going to happen inside of the filter is the water is still going to come in through this pipe from the pump. Instead of going into the top of the filter, it's going to be pushed into the bottom of the filter. The water is going to go back up through the tube in the middle, and it's going to clean off the top layer of the debris inside of the filter. So basically the water is going to push up from the bottom up to the top, and then the water is going to come out through the waste hose, which is typically on the back side of the multiport. You'll find this, sometimes it's hard plumbed into a system, and sometimes there's a blue rolled up backwash hose. So it's important, if you're going to backwash, make sure that hose is rolled out entirely with no kinks or bumps in it before you turn the system on. So when you're ready to backwash, you will turn on your system. A typical backwash cycle, you need to run until the water in the sight glass, which is on the side of the multiport, runs clear. You can also watch the end of the backwash hose if you have a line of sight to it. Probably 3 to 5 minutes is a typical length of time for a backwash cycle. So when you're all set up, then you can go ahead and turn that on. So once you've run a backwash cycle with your sand filter, it is important that you run a rinse cycle. The reason that you'll do this is because when you have reversed the flow of water in the filter during backwash, because the water was coming in from the bottom out to the top, lifting off that top layer of debris and putting it out your waste hose, now you have some of that trapped in your pipes, and you don't want to switch it back to pool mode and just shoot all of that back into your swimming pool. This is one of the main selling points or reasons to switch from a push-pull valve to a multi-port valve, because older systems that have the push-pull valve on a sand filter, you have two options, push and pull. So it's either filtering or it's backwashing. There is no opportunity to rinse. There is no opportunity to run water straight to waste. So for anybody that has a push-pull valve who's experiencing any issues with water clarity, getting debris back into your pool, any number of things, consider switching to a multi-port valve, because you'll be glad that you did. So anyway, we're done running the backwash cycle itself, so now we do need to rinse. Again, we want to make sure that we turn off the system before we move the handle. We will switch the handle to rinse, and then we will go ahead and put the system going again. The same rule applies here. Watch the sight glass until the water runs clear. Watch the end of the backwash hose if you can see it, to see when that runs clear. Or if you are just doing it kind of by feel, you'll probably want to give it about a minute or so that it can clean those pipes out and get the water back to the clear condition that you'd like to be putting in your pool. Once you've run the backwash cycle and the rinse and you put the swimming pool back on filter, if you get dirty water back into the pool, if it kind of looks like there's fine dust in there, what that probably means is you didn't backwash long enough. And if you're getting anything other than that, it probably means that you didn't rinse long enough. So as hard as it is sometimes to be patient while this is doing its thing, we do need to give it enough time so that it can process properly. So when you're ready, then go ahead and put it to rinse.